Hey, Delano, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing good. I'm doing super, super good. I can't believe I'm actually here. I'm
I
actually
can't believe
here.
you're here.
It's been a long time coming, but we here. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
What did Dr. Frazier? He just talked about the music, and here you go.
Hey, that's a good one. Hey, started from the bottom. That's positive right there.
Thanks, thanks all day. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and kick everything off. Hey everybody, this is Camille as the host of the Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast where innovators and creators connect. If you haven't heard, my big brother is in the building, Delano A. Johnson. So you need to bring a friend, tag someone, ring that bell, drop that notification button. It's going to be a heavy hitting conversation tonight. So if you're not aware, I have ebooks out and they are available right now on my website at www.camilleestic.com, as well as my essential room spray collection, chemistry room sprays, room fragrances. Get that as well on my website. So with that being said, another than Delano A. Johnson is in the building. For those, if you do not know who he is, you must be under a rock. So he is a man of many hats. He's won Grammys. He sat with Dr. Miles Monroe. He is an international motivational speaker. He's a Grammy award-winning artist. He is a brand architect. He is the author of Living, was a talented living, let me get it right. Living Talented and Broke, which we're going to talk about, and so many other things. He's also a member of the Fraser Nation, which I'm a part of, and he is the lead and key moderator for the House of Creativity on Clubhouse. If you are not a part of that community, I tell you, your life will be changed every day. Today, we kind of showed out a little bit. We did, but it's all right. So with that being said, Delano, just go ahead and introduce yourself for those that are not familiar with you, and kind of give some people a little bit of your background, like where you came from and just who you are.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, I'm a man from the soil. I'm originally from the Bahamas, born, grew up, came here to the U.S. in 1995. So I grew up swimming in the sea that wasn't polluted. I grew up walking with my feet in the sand, and I don't know where all this cold weather come from. I'm in New York. I don't know what possessed me to be up here where we got a whole bunch of snow. But I grew up in the Bahamas, moved here, just chasing that dream, right? My mother told me that I could do anything, and I had the audacity to actually believe her. Like I believe that what she said I could do, I could actually do, and started out to just fulfill the dream. When I left the Bahamas, I had actually turned down a scholarship to study architecture and civil engineering. I did an internship there with one of the best civil engineers on the island. But I decided that I didn't want to spend my life. This was before computers, and I'm kind of dating myself here. I didn't put my cocoa bean #5 on, so you can tell a little bit, got a little bit gray going on. But I didn't want to spend the rest of my life. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life behind, a draftsman desk, pushing 45s and T-squares, using protractors and compasses. I just couldn't see it, even though I love the process of designing. I love the process of designing. So I was able to actually fall in love with another passion, which was commercial design, commercial art, and became a graphic designer from there. Started out doing things for corporate America. My first big job was with Novell. My ex-wife worked at the company, and they needed something done. And just messing around with graphic designs and drawing and being good in art in school, all of that, all of it paid off. It paid off. Self-taught. I just took courses to always learn more and to increase my skill sets and levels and understanding of the industry. And from there, it just grew into a full-fledged branding company, where I work with companies like Sheraton Grand and Pfizer and a whole lot of big names, Verizon. So it's just been such an awesome ride. And so I made my first million at 33, following and chasing that dream. It was a Bahamian/American dream, and I was headed straight for it. And but by 35, by 39, I lost everything. So I made my first million at 33. By 39, in 6 years, I lost everything. And so at that point in my life, I had everything I wanted. When I was a kid, I dreamed of having a house, a wife, a dog named Spot, 2-car garage, white picket fence, 3 kids. And I achieved that and more. Had 3 houses instead of just one, right? Had 3 cars instead of just one. That station wagon that I dreamt of having when I was a kid. And so, but I lost everything within 6 years. Sometimes we're so busy trying to make it, we don't understand how to sustain and keep it, right? We don't learn those principles. And so that's what happens to the most of us. And, Camille, I was so depressed after losing everything. I was, sleeping at home in a 7,000 square foot house, writing all of these things that I did that I felt contributed to my demise. I was doing that, writing it to a candlelight. I didn't even have power on. Like when I say I fell, like it was horrible. So I lost everything, got divorced. My kids was living with me and we went through a horrible divorce. And then, they went to live with, 2 of them went to live with their mom, and I had my oldest with me. But it was just devastating for me, to the point where when the courts decided, and I had the paperwork to say that the kids were supposed to be with me, when the courts decided against that, I just felt like there was no justice. I felt like God just, everything that I thought I was doing right. You're paying your tithes, you're going to church, you're being good, and all of these things, and it seemed like it didn't work. Like I was supposed to be sheltered from these type of things. I was supposed to be secure that these things wouldn't happen and take me out in this way. But lo and behold, I went through that thing, and it was the best thing. Even though at one point, after they gave me that verdict, Camille, I tell you, it was the lowest in my life. As an entrepreneur, it was the lowest in my life. I remember driving down Main Street with my hands clutched to the steering wheel, and I basically drove through the traffic. And I was intending to run the car right up into the 7-Eleven at high speed. And I'm telling you, something stopped the car right in the middle of the T-junction, with the police to my left looking right at me, didn't even come on the car, didn't say nothing. And when I caught myself and realized, like, it was just, sometimes you're in that trance, and I woke up and I was like, whoa. I took a deep breath and I just turned the car, went left. And that's when my life went on another trajectory. I read over 300 books. I just started reading. Read over 300 books, and I figured out there was 107 things that most creative people do, most entrepreneurs who start out on this pathway, self-actualization, trying to accomplish these goals, trying to accomplish the American dream. But we don't understand the things that cause us to be talented and broke perpetually,
Mm-hmm.
perpetually. And I wrote, after learning all those things, Camille, I wrote a book, and that's why we're here. The
I
book
love
is
it.
called Refuse to Live Talent and Broke, 10
Yeah,
Keys to Unlocking Your Creative Earning Potential. So that's a little bit about my story.
I love it. Thank you. And I want to get into that, but when you were talking about losing your kids and going through that moment, there are a lot of good Black fathers out there, so that are in that situation, and maybe watch this later, hear this later. What, or even single Black fathers right now, what do you have to say to them that may be watching or listening, going through that, and they know they should have the kids with them, and they know they are the better parent for their child or children? To the Black men out there, what do you have to say,
Yeah.
Delano?
Yeah. Man, listen, co-parenting is best for the kids. And when you cannot agree, that's what makes it more difficult. You have to try to be amicable, even when the other party doesn't. Listen, I get it. I think it was in the Bible. It says, maybe just the same, but hell hath no fury than the woman scorn.
Yeah.
And and listen, I don't fault her. It wasn't about the better parent.
Hmm.
It was about being fair and just to equal time to parent. So it was how the kids left that became problematic. So I'll say this to you: anybody that's listening, you're a father and you know you're a good dad. Like me, all I wanted to do. Listen, I've been thinking about having kids and being a good father. Every year, I ask my kids, what's my credit? What's my score? Like, what's my daddy score? Like, how am I doing? I have them tell me, right? Even though they for whatever their perception of fatherhood is, right, in that relationship, I allow them to tell me. And so I would say to you that don't be afraid to fight for the kids. I wish my father fought for us. My youngest brother and my sister, we were the last three, came from a big family, 15 of us. But my dad and my mother split. Their relationship ended by the time as my younger brother, who's the last one, came around. And I wish he fought, or I wish I understood that maybe he wanted to fight. I wish I saw him fight to have us in his life more than just, the summers. Um, but my son said this to me, and I'm tell you why so important for your kids to see you fight to have them. That places a marker in their life. So whenever they feel in doubt, they know that you had the interest too. Maybe the coach told you no, maybe the mom won, maybe the mother made it difficult. And sometimes when the mother makes it difficult, it's better to pull back than to have the kids see you fighting. But find a way from an optical position, an optical standpoint, to make sure your kids see that you are interested in having them in your life, fighting for them. I was in the court, and I'm tell you, Camille, I hired an attorney, spent a whole bunch of money, and uh, was getting ready to go to trial, and I realized that it was a game because another attorney actually told me. I don't know what possessed her to do that. I probably think that if that was known, she would have been disbarred. But she basically gave me the scoop, and from that moment, I went myself and I studied all the laws. I understood exactly what was happening in the laws that my ex was breaking, not knowingly, but things that I would be able to fight with to at least level the playing field and mitigate the amount of friction that the kids were seeing. So fight for your kids. Let them see you fighting for them. That is extremely important. When I went to the courts in Jersey and I showed them the documentation, it took them 4 rounds for the court to say, you know what, you've been here the 4th time, we're going to see this case.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge said to me when I was walking out with my son, my oldest son with me, he said, Miss Johnson, he said, you've been here a couple of times. I'm going to see, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get to the bottom of this.
Delano, you're cutting out a little bit.
And then he said, but the court wants to personally thank you for your persistence. Many fathers come in here and they never show an ounce of the persistence that you showed. When we walked out the court, my son grabbed me and hugged me and he said, Dad, thank you for fighting for us,
Wow.
my oldest son. So you always listen. I don't care what happened. You want to make sure that even if you lose, even if you're not the better parent, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. just because of the season in your life. But always make sure your kids know that you want them in your life, in your vicinity, not just for a weekend, not just for vacation, not just for the summer, but you want them in your life. That's the best advice I could give any father going through anything that I went through.
Wow, that's heavy. There's so much I really want to unpack with you. There are a couple of quotes that you have, Delano. You said your talent will
You
attract.
there?
Can you hear me, Delano? Can you hear me?
Oh wow. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Oh man.
Can you hear me? I can hear you just fine. I can hear you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Camille, can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you, Delano. I think we're having technical difficulty. I can hear you just fine. We
Yes,
got
I
a
can
little
hear you.
great. You can hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I love technology.
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, great. I was saying you have a
Yep, I
quote.
can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yes, I can. Oh my God, this is so horrible. I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
So go ahead, ask the question.
Okay, I was saying that you have a quote that you said your talent can attract resources, but your brand will build your life's legacy. Can you unpack that?
Okay. Yeah. So your talent is the thing that you bring to the market. It's just a tool, but you need to be able to take that tool and to build something with it. So if your talent is the tool, it's the hammer. You take that hammer, you take a bunch of nails, and you build a house. It is a house that you actually live in, and that is the value. That's the thing that brings you value. That's the thing that brings you equity. That's the thing that for a long period of time, you can benefit from the work of your hands. So when you build a brand, it's like building a business. As a matter of fact, a lot of businesses find its value in the brand. The brand is the idea. It is the thing, it is the service or the idea that people flock to. If you remove the label of Nike off of a tennis shoe, it no longer has the same value. That what we call an identity mark signifies the commitment that Nike has to how shoes are made and to the design and the structure of it and the fact that they want to minimize foot injuries for athletes. All of that comes in that signature, that identity, which we call an identity mark. So when you create a brand, an idea, something that people buy into, it's an idea that they buy into, you're creating something that will outlive you. So your talent is to be used to help you build a brand, and your brand is what you take to the third and fourth generation. Your talents die with you.
Okay, so when pursuing purpose and going in these routes, Delano, how can someone, particularly within the Black community, what is so important? What is the most important thing that we need to get as people of color, Black people in this country, going into entrepreneurship? Because I don't think we really understand the importance of ownership. So, can you kind of dive into that just a little bit as far as how much we need to have our own things, not just going out buying a Range Rover or red bottoms, but to invest, to own, and to have things that we can pass on to the next generation.
Yeah, so this is a major milestone in the evolution of moving from civil rights to silver rights, moving from marching for freedom and being financially free. It's the pathway in the middle of that journey is only afforded to you by the metamorphosis of your thoughts. When you change your thought process, your value system, matter of fact, when you change your value system, your thought process changes. When you value a piece of property, when you value a brand, right? I just talked about brand. You can sell a business and retain your brand. The business is the system, the building, the people that work. But your brand is the idea. When a company is acquired, they're actually acquiring the brand, that ID, all of the things, the intellectual property. That's what they own. So we move from understanding that you're just not creating a mom and pop store, but you're building a brand. There are a few pillars of success that the African American Black families across the world have to actually focus on if we're ever going to make sense of the freedom fighting that happened in the last 400 years and all of the blood that was shed, all of the lives that were given to take us to a place where we can be financially free. Number one, we have to think in terms of land ownership. Number two, we have to think in terms of strategic placement of critical insurance. Number three, we have to think in terms of equity. And number four, every family needs to think of being a producer and not a consumer. Family should have a family business, leaving a family legacy so that your children's children have something to do. They have something to start with. Don't be so quick to take your idea to the market and then flip it with an exit strategy to make, $100 million. Yeah, the money may be fine unless you have a very legacy minded uh, 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 a plan for your family. That 100 million, you spend that in a career, and now he's worth he's making his way back now to a couple of million. I think he's 20 million now. That's a far cry from having three. You know what you can do with $300 million? You start
Yeah.
out with $300 million, right? In 5 years of professional boxing, 10 years in professional boxing, and you got a net worth of $300 million. So we have to change our thinking to long-term strategy. And you have to live like this. Listen, I know how it is. I made my first million. First thing I do is I want to buy a nice car. But I succumb to all of the advertising that I myself was creating for people. Right? I let those labels and those brands define me as opposed to me using those things. You don't want to live in a house that you can't afford. Matter of fact, if you have a landlord and you're driving a Land Rover, you talented and broke. You talented and broke.
So I guess my next question would be as far as looking into breaking down the barriers and entering different industries and fields. What are some places that we need to begin, or where do we need to start in doing that? Because okay, you're doing hair, you're doing nails, but outside of those things, what are some other industries that we need to look at in order to get ahead? We just had a conversation about this with Dr. George C. Frazier. So, what are some other industries where we need to educate ourselves, and where do we need to place ourselves to gain some foothold within various industries? Thank you, Delano. Um, so when you were writing your book and you were in that space of writing Talented and Broke, what was probably the number one thought or the number one thing that went off inside of you and said, hey, I really need to write this down. I need to get this message out. Did you really know or understand the impact this book will have, that it will be a best-selling book? Did you know that, or just was this something you just had to do for yourself? Like, can you kind of go there? Like, what was in your mind at that time when you lost everything, when you lost the millions of dollars, and in that space, and these words are coming to you? What was that like for you? Can you hear me? Can you hear? Can you hear me, Delano? I don't know what's going on. Um, Y'all, I'm so sorry. This has never happened before. And of all times, we are having technical difficulties. I'm not sure what is happening here, but we are trying to work it out. So I really appreciate everyone for sticking with us, because Delano is really dropping some nuggets here. Okay, he should be here. So we're trying to get Delano back on. He said he is rebooting. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for rocking with us as we get this worked out. Technology, you gotta love it. So while we're waiting on him, if you're not familiar with Delano Johnson, he is one of the key moderators for the House of Creativity. He's also a Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter, and he's okay. We are on right now. We're trying to get him back in the room. I think he's having some hiccups, so we're trying to get that worked out. But yeah, he has built an empire. He lost it all. He gained it all back. He's written a phenomenal book. I met him through Clubhouse, and we've been networking on and off. I want to say the last 4 or 5 months offline together, and I invited him on the show. I'm just upset because of all times of all nights, we want to have technical difficulties, and it's just frustrating. But that's part of when you are doing lives. And this is also a learning lesson for me. When you're doing lives, you got to roll with the punches. You have to learn to be flexible and work with it. Things happen sometimes. That's right, Mark. Things happen. It can be super frustrating, and you do have to have tough skin and learn to be flexible, because it happens to the best of us. I want to thank everyone for being patient. So thank you, Kia, Mark. I think Emerson had tuned in, and everyone that's watching. We are trying to get him back online right now. So let me see if you guys will bear with me. Hold on just a second. So stand by. there, Delano?
Hey, I'm here.
What happened?
I have no idea, man. You know, technology, man.
I'm so angry. I'm like, of all times, tonight is the night the internet wants to act the fool.
I don't know, man. You know, blame it on 5G. Blame it on 5G.
I'm like mad and embarrassed on so many levels. I'm just like, I have been.
It's not you. It's not you. This is how it is. Listen, we've been doing it since COVID. Listen, you know how many times I've been on big, speaking on big stages, and it goes back. It's just it's just a part of it, man. It's a part.
I'm like on the verge of trying not to cry because I'm so mad.
No, lady, you strong. You listen. This is how it is. I'm good. I'm good. We can do whatever you want to do. We can start over. We can do whatever you want to do. I'm here to serve.
Thank you. Well, let's just work through it.
Yeah, sure.
I gotta laugh it off because I'm mad. So you were saying that the demand of a dream, there's a price tag that no one tells you about when you begin your journey. So let's have that conversation about the demand of the dream and the price tag that comes along with the journey. Because I think a lot of people, when we feel like, oh, I'm going into entrepreneurship, or I want to start a book, a brand, a business, but they don't tell you there's some hurdles along the way. Like even right now, we're having technical difficulties, but you have to have that tenacity to see it through and to pick up yourself and keep going, because we could have ended the broadcast and like, man, forget it. So when you have been in that space, let's kind of rewind. When you lost all that money, the millions of dollars, and you're in the dark and you're writing by candlelight and writing talented and broke. First of all, where were you in your mind to even want to write that? Did you know that it was going to be a best-selling book? Did you know that you were going to be winning a Grammy? Did you know you would be a mentee, a protege of Dr. Miles Monroe? Did you know these things when you wrote Talented and Broke? And then to the price of the journey.
Yeah, that's a good question. So let's take it back. So I want to make one correction. I didn't win a Grammy. I was nominated.
Nominated. Okay.
Yeah, nominated. You know, because people, you get it, you get it. And he wasn't the Grammy nominated. I don't see that. So
he was nominated. Okay.
Yeah, you want to make sure clear that up. But yeah, so I grew up with in the church. Traveled with Dr. Monroe as a young musician. And so being mentored with him was the foundation. Being mentored by him and learning from him, being in his environment, being a part of the youth group, being a youth music minister there, being a part of the ministry. And so that was the foundation. So your direct question is what is the cost, the price for success, the price for going after your dreams? What happened is the price tag it's not one single price tag. You don't go up to the dream and see that it's $100,000 or $1 million, right? The price keeps changing and it keeps escalating to more and more, because whenever you achieve something, life now demands more sacrifice, more discipline, right? So it takes more out of you. So you have to continue to give to the dream as it demands on demand in order to attain that level. When you move from that, when you attain that level, now you got to go to the next level. It's going to require more wisdom, better decisions, different friends, new relationships, a different way of thinking, a different way of managing money, a different way of a whole nother level of financial education, right? A whole nother level of emotional intelligence. So the price of it is continual, ever learning, ever moving, ever testing. That's the price. You cannot stop. The minute you stop learning, the minute you stop, because when you achieve something, you have about 4 days to revel in that. And that feeling goes away. You buy a new car, you drive around it, you drive all the way to the next state, you come back. That's it. Ain't no more you can do with that car. I don't care what it is. Ain't no more you can do with the car. So you're on to the next feat. So what I was thinking when I lost everything was there was 2 things that kept me focused. And you always have to find a bigger vision than your life. If it's not bigger than you, You will never be bigger than that thing. If your vision is not bigger than you, you will never be bigger than that thing. But that thing will always overtake you. Right? So what you have to do is you think about the big picture. Now, my big picture was two things. Actually, four things. Number one, the words of my mother, her belief in me, and everything she said to me that made me believe that I could do these things since I was 5 years old. She convinced me that I could be in the Guinness Book World Records. She convinced me that I could sing in the choir and lead a song. Matter of fact, she made me do it. She pushed me up on that. 5 years old, she pushed me up up on. I didn't know. She heard me, singing in the bathroom, and singing in the shower. And she heard me singing. She said, "Oh, you're gonna sing? You gonna sing on Sunday? You gonna sing on Sunday?" And I sang, "Jesus Love Me, This I Know." First song I sang, right there with my belt bottom shoes and them thick tube socks in there, because my shoes was always too big, and she always make us wear 2 pairs of socks to fit in them shoes because they had to last us for 2-3 years, right? So it was the words of my mother that I heard every single day of my life telling me that I'm going to do and be something. I'm going to do something significant and be someone great. And then it was my 3 children. When I realized that I wasn't living for myself, we have to get out of accomplishing these things for us. The thing that you're trying to build cannot end with you. It has to end in your mind with your great grandson or daughter. My vision became at that point that I am going to invest in my great grandson's first business idea, or my great granddaughter. You have to outthink yourself. So that's something to live for, because you could never actually see it. I can't see them. Mm-hmm. Their parents ain't even born yet. Then, so you have an idea to believe in. You got a purpose to live for, mm-hmm. Right? You got instructions to adhere to, and you have resources to accomplish it. So you always have to live bigger than yourself. Bigger than yourself.
Okay, Delano, I have this question because there's some ladies and I that we listen to you on Clubhouse, but we also talk offline, and we text all the time. And then we have sub rooms in Clubhouse, and we've been having this conversation of surviving the journey. Like, we know things have been prophesied over our life. We know things have been shown to us. We know that we have this mantle of entrepreneurship and legacy and building and growing, and we get tired. So how do we? And we feel like, well, it's not my turn yet. And I'm putting out ebooks and I'm posting, I'm doing podcasts, and we're doing all this stuff. But we're trying to endure this part because we're waiting our turn. So how do we survive the wait? How do we endure the now to the next? How do we endure that?
Yeah, I want to say this, and like my mentor, Dr. Jordan, was, I want to say this and still be loved. It's not about your turn. Truth be told, you have to get over the Eurocentric model of me. I just gave you the key. I said when it started to be us and them, that's when things changed. Check this out. I wrote my book, finish it. I said, oh, okay, God, I'm supposed to do this book. I wrote my book, finish it in 2014, had one more chapter, gave Dr. Monroe it. He wrote the forward to the book. I finished the last chapter in the summer. I did a soft launch in 2014. In November, we met. I said to him, Pops, I said, you told me about this vision that you wanted to do, which is to publish Divine Voices. Well, he didn't tell just me, but it was the entire church. Right. Having his books, Diplomat Press is on. You see a logo that says Diplomat Press. That was his publishing company, and the purpose of that was to publish the voices of the unheard. I remember when I was a teenager, when he vision cast one day in church. Actually, it was a Thursday when we were fasting, and the church sat down, and he just laid out the whole entire vision. And so I said to him, I said, who have you published with that? What are you doing with the publishing company?
Mm-hmm.
I had a dream to ask him this. And he said to me, Camille, he said, "You trying to send me to my early grave. This is the last thing I want to get done." Immediately, I finished writing my book. Now, I don't know if it's going to be, but all I knew is that I had something to say. Now, of course, I'm a perfectionist, and in whatever I'm given, I'm going to max it out. I got to give God double what he gives me.
Right.
So if the potential of the book that I can see when I'm done with it is that, okay, this book in the market could sell, 10,000 copies. Okay, so then I got to do 20. Right? It's just a double principle from the principle of the parable of the servants, and what we call it, the parable of stewardship in Matthew chapter 25. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to help him accomplish his dream. Again, not about me and my turn. It's about living for something greater than me. So what happened in me putting my book aside and saying, "Pops, I know you want to give this to the publishers, but let me work on your publishing company. I've been in publishing now, I've been designing books, all this kind of stuff. And I know what I'm doing in this." I said, let me help you to build this, because you haven't published anybody yet. I'm saying I could travel with you. I will promote, I say, you promote the publishing company. I'll get people signed. We'll find the authors. You point them out. We'll get them going. And Brown, we'll publish the Voices of the Unheard. He loved it. We sat down. I have a video of his last, and that video is his last video. We sat down. We talked about all the strategy. In the middle of the meeting, Camille, he said, "You know what?" And he took my book and he said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make your book the first book on my publishing company."
Wow.
Over 79 books published, maybe more. I definitely know he had 4 or 5 books that was released posthumously, and more that was being written. Ghostwriters, I know ghostwriters had at least 2 or 3. So when you start to look outside of you, same thing happened again. Now, after Pastor Dr. Monroe dies in 2014, 2015, I dedicated 2 years of my life to help his kids to get positioned. Their father just died. I'm a little bit older than they are. Right? I traveled with him as a young man. They're living under the pressure of being Miles Monroe kids.
Right.
And so I just helped out where I could for those 2 years. And it was difficult because I was in a rebuilding state, and that was a step back for me. But I did that, right? And what happened? From there, I meet Dr. George C. Fraser. And
that's right there.
how did I meet Dr. George C. Fraser? Well, I shook his hand. He felt the book and he's like, "Oh, this is good." He looked at it. He, he's a stickler for good design. And so he said, "Man, I just might read this book." And he looked at it good, and he saw Dr. Miles Monroe did the forward. He said, "Oh, well, Miles is good." And he looked at me and he gave me his card. Now, Bry, who is his personal assistant, when I spoke to him, he said, "Oh, he gave you a card. Let me see which one he gave you." And he gave me his personal card with his personal number on it. It wasn't a card with Bry's number on it. So she said, "Ooh," she said, "he definitely want to hear from you." So what I did for my mentor, Dr. Monroe, led to a relationship with the mentor who would take over from him in my life. You got to understand this. It's not about you out here beating the pavement trying to do these things yourself. I know that's what they promote, how to make 6 figures in 6 seconds, how to make 7 figures in 7 seconds, all this stuff. And they have you thinking that you can do all of these things by yourself. But I would tell you that every good thing that's happened to me, it's been because I gave. I asked Dr. Monroe, you got to do this thing. You said that this was supposed to be done. Let's get it done. First thing I said to Dr. G, I said, I don't know how come I didn't know this conference existed. I said, but I don't see any Gen Xers and millennials here. Like, they're not represented. Like, you have to do something. Dr. G look at me and say, "Well, good. Then that must mean you're going to do something about it." Next thing I know, I'm being named his successor.
That's heavy.
In 2017, I did want me to say that in 2007, after waiting until 2016, working with my mentors, kids, so that they can, formulate the ministry and do what they do and help them out. 2016, and then 2017, I started my tour. I met Dr. G in the middle of that tour, somewhere in the middle of the tour, and then I started to dedicate. All the 16, 2007, end of 2017. And I started to dedicate the rest of that time to help Dr. George do what I've been doing to date. It's all about helping and building the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
When you stand with somebody who has accomplished so much, they poured over to you credibility. They poured over to you a ladder, right? Where you trying to get these things accomplished, releasing all of this stuff, doing all this activity. It is, I'm going to say this one word. The key, right, is to give to collaboration. Give to collaboration. Give to collaborate.
Wow.
Give to collaborate.
Okay. I hope everyone is soaking all this in. So I want to fast forward to tie everything together, and I really want to bring you back because you were just dropping so many jewels, Delano. So I came across the House of Creativity on Clubhouse during fall winter break. I'm in grad school, which
Right.
and someone pinged me in the room or whatever, and I got in. And that first time, I was like, wow! It was like a bell went off, and I was like, I need to hear this. I needed to hear this because it's good that we have people on our level in our circles and we're supporting and pushing, but you need someone that's where you want to be. And you said something in the room one time, Delano. You said when the mentee when the person is ready, the mentor will appear. And I could be saying it wrong.
Yeah.
But it was like you just showed up, and it's just like I gravitated to you and Monique and Dr. Frazier. And ever since then, it's just like I've been like a moth to the candle, and I'm just drawn into you guys because I feel like you guys are giving me another perspective, another win, and not just for me, but just for other people in the room. And before we were on this podcast, we just left talking to Dr. George C. Frazier. So you kind of, first of all, talk about the House of Creativity and what it means to be in that space and what is happening in that room.
Yeah, I do remember the first time you came into the room and listen. So we're on Clubhouse. I'm basically on Clubhouse because I'm working. We have the Power Networking Conference, which is a live conference, but now we got the pandemic and we got all this technology that's happened. So I really went on Clubhouse to really assess like the impact on business, right? Along with my other clients, I wanted to see if this would hurt or help, the branding efforts for my clients. And what I started to find out slowly that this was an extremely powerful tool for acquisition of customers and clients. Extremely powerful because you had this opportunity to actually propagate and evangelize your message, talk about your products at just at the drop of a dime, and you have an audience of 50 people, 100 people, 500 people. We opened up the room the other day, we had 1,500 people in the room. And so what I'm saying is that it's an extremely powerful tool, and I'm going to be talking about that because a lot of people just missing it. But so what I found out is that the only challenge was there was this whole bunch of people. I was racking up 1,000 people a day. I mean, not a day. Wow, every week I'm ending with 1,000 people because I'm just sharing and just giving value, being authentic, showing up authentic, and just speaking my truth and speaking my experiences, and just it's just building and building. And so it's been going extremely well. And what I decided that, wait a minute, I'm actually attracting my tribe, the people who my life is for. That's creative people, entrepreneurs, entertainers, artists, and inventors. Like if you find yourself being creative, whether that's in the creative arts, whether that's commercial arts, whether that's the applied arts and sciences, like if you find yourself creative, like that's who I'm called to. So the House of Creativity was created as an off-app community that will connect all of my social media so that we can broadcast to people simultaneously. It is a club, an extension of Clubhouse, but now it is a club in and of itself where you can be a part of that, even if you're not on the Clubhouse app. If you're on Facebook, we just launched our website, which you can actually join, and you can get all the messages, all the stuff that we've been given, all the nuggets that we've been dropping, talking about branding, the stages of branding. We're talking about being multi-talented and unfocused. How do you find focus when you're multi-talented? I talk about being creatively schizo, being able to work with your left and your right side of the brain. How do you bring balance to that? How do you market your dream? How do you brand your personality brand, your corporate brand, your product brand? So we talk about all of these things and drop values that, you would have had to pay, a master class of 30 grand to do. And so we dropped some of those knowledge. Obviously, we can't do all of that there, but it's great primers to get you going. So I just realized that I can give people tips and tricks on these, on my social media right quick. Tips and tricks where you can make just small adjustments. And then for people who want to make the investment of where you have a relationship to see true transformation, right? You can get tips and tricks to make small adjustments as you're going along. But in order to have true transformation, that's a relationship, right? That's a commitment in the relationship, because I'm going to look and study and reevaluate and testing and targeting, A and B testing, and we're going to come up with the right solution based on what you specifically need for your intrinsic products and services. So that's what the House of Creativity is. We have people from all over we have about 12 different countries represented of people who come every morning. We have intention setting, creative intention setting. We agree with people state what they need, and anybody in the group, if you have the resource or the relationship, and sometimes even money, even though I don't encourage it, because I don't want people to come and saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a loan and come in here and do that. So that's what the House of Creativity is, and it's just growing, man. I just can't believe how much we got. A wonderful group of people that's just chipped in from all over the world, man. Scotland, England, Africa, Uganda, South Africa. And we got the States. We got people signing in from the West Coast at 5 a.m. in the morning to our 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. People from London who are 5 hours ahead, coming in. So it's been crazy but wonderful at the same time, man.
One thing I want to say, I think a lot of people, maybe even somewhere in my age group, they get stuck on the tips and tricks, but not about the mindset. And that's something I think that's very key and important, because you can have all this, what I call the surface stuff, but what about the core?
Yeah.
And I think we really have to get that in our core. And that's, for me, that's what it's been. It's been an internal switch, and how I'm thinking, how I'm perceiving, not only just in business, but me as a person. So can you kind of touch on how that is so important before we push to build a brand and try to make 6 figures and hit 7 figures? If we're not building on a foundation that's healthy, we're going to bleed on our brand, and we're going to damage our business and the people connected to it.
Yeah. See, my philosophy in the creative life is that there is a creator who has an intention for the thing that they're creating. If I want people to see moving pictures in the comfort of their homes, I'm creating a box that could transmit, whether it's in the box or whether it's transmitting from a remote station, sending signals to that box. So I'm going to create that thing to accomplish what I intended to accomplish. I'm going to design it so that people can watch it, right? The screen is not going to be in the back of the product. It's going to be in the front, because I want people looking. So I believe that there is an intelligent being that created you and placed inside of you these abilities, these ideas of achieving something. When you find, we call that your personal purpose. When you find the personal purpose, you lead with some service to humanity. I want to solve some problem, which creates a service, right? You're serving, which creates a service in a business environment, right? As an entrepreneur. So once you find that, you become passionate about that thing and the people you're serving.
Mm.
If it comes any other way, you're going to be met with roadblocks, create what I call creative fatigue. You're going to not be able to push forward in the critical times.
Mm.
And those business ideas will find someone worthy of actualizing them if you are not worthy for it. So I know most entrepreneurs get an idea and they start out and they just go ahead and do it. Some entrepreneurs actually prepare. They study the market that they're going into. They launch out with more risk than usual. That's the actual definition of the word entrepreneur. Someone who partakes in business for trade and a profit with more risk than usual. That's the dictionary definition of it. So when you lead with your intrinsic gifts and abilities stemming from your skill set, your talents, those are the things that you have intrinsically. I think because that thing is personal to you, it's more like a gift. No one can actually pay you. You agree on a certain amount to be able to pay the bills and make a profit. But you do that thing whether they're paying you or not. And that's what creates great service. That's what creates a great environment, a great exchange, right? A great experience with the customer because you're passionate about what that thing is you do. Listen, my brand, I'm passionate. I got it all over here. All of my studios, it's all over the place. It's all about being, to getting you from talented and broke to talented and successful. I got it everywhere. When you talk to me, I mean, I say it a couple of times within my speech. I want to get you from talented and broke to talented and successful, right? I'm from talented and successful. I'm gonna get you to talented and rich. From talented and rich, then our job is to get you to talented and wealthy, right? So it's really about starting the journey with your intrinsic abilities, delivering that as a service to humanity, doing the business right, having the business structure so that when you give, people are going to want that product. When you give from that place, right, of your intrinsic value, when you give from those intrinsic abilities, you're going to do it with excellence. You're going to put the passion into making it the best that it can be. And when you give that, people going to notice what you put into that. They're going to see the excellence in it. They're going to see the passion in it, and they're going to want more and more and more. Then that's where the business comes in. That's where creating the business environment so you have a machine that duplicates what you've done, where you're teaching others to do what you do so you don't have to be stuck at that business door all the time, opening the door at 9 a.m. So that's a whole nother channel about it. But it starts with discovering and in some cases recovering the vision that you lost for yourself because you became inundated and distracted with all these systems and funnels.
Thank you, Delano. There's so much I really want to get into you with, and I'm gonna have to bring you back so we can really dig into some other things.
Oh, sure.
So first of all, before we wrap up, is there give us two takeaways until you come back that we can kind of roll over in our mind? What are two takeaways that you would like to give to the people that have been watching and listening and those that will catch the broadcast later? What are two takeaways that you would like to give?
You know what? I would actually like to invite you, if you are on Clubhouse, I would like to invite you to the House of Creativity. Just type it in. You go to the House of Creativity, follow me, Delano A. Johnson. Whenever we open up a room, you'll come into it. We carefully curate the experience because in social media, you can easily become a producer of content as opposed to the benefactor of the content you're producing to receive pecuniary benefits and residuals and revenue from it. You become so busy trying to get the numbers that you just become, one of their minions creating content to keep eyeballs on screen so that they can charge, advertisers. So we carefully curated an experience to give you the tips and tricks on the app and off the app to give you the principles and the program. So I would encourage you to check us out on Clubhouse. Check me out on Clubhouse and follow me there. And number two, I want to challenge you. Why are you doing what you're doing? The question is, Why are you working so hard? Why are you trying to get to 6 figures? What is it for? And if your answer can't take you into the future, I said this just a few hours ago when we were talking with Dr. G. I said, if your friends always talk in the present tense, you need to dump them, because people who are your real good friends, they're always talking future tense. They're always talking about what's happening in the future. Always talking about where you're going, what we need to do, what we got to have, what we have to accomplish, why we need to accomplish that. The people that's meeting us, waiting in for us in the future, waiting for you to get there with your product, services, and solutions. So my question is, why are you doing what you're doing? If you have a problem, or you think you need to reevaluate that, I want you to get in touch with me. That's why I'm here. I found exactly what I love to do, and I'm doing what I love to do right now, and that's talking to you. Talking to you to help you to build a brand, helping you to build a legacy, helping you to be able to invest in your great grandson or granddaughter's first business idea. Those are the 2 things I want to leave with you until the next time. Matter of fact, you don't even have to wait till the next time. Camille's going to be up and early, 8 a.m. in the morning. We're going to be right there on Clubhouse.
Yes, or we're going to catch Monique's lemonade stand.
Yeah, Renee and Monique is going to be there at the lemonade stand. So, hey, follow me on Clubhouse at Delano A. Johnson, and I'd love to see you.
Thank you. And for those that would like to get a copy of your book, Talented and Broke, where can they get that, Delano?
Just that place, talentedandbroke.com. You go there, you'll find it. It's a wonderful book. We got a couple of products with there. We have some courses. If you're a couple, matter of fact, if you're in a business with your spouse, and that's very difficult sometimes to be in business with your spouse. But we have a couples course that you take together, and I facilitate that course. It's a semi-live course. I do it's for 30 days. So it's a 30-day semi-live course. You do it together as a couple, and I'm there to coach you through it. It's a great project. Go on the website, talentedandbroke.com. Check it out. And I'd love to see you soon.
Thank you. Well, it's been a very interesting episode of the Speaker Podcast. We had some hiccups, but you know what? We got through it, and it's a lot.
We made it happen. We made it work. Give me a high five. Give me a high five.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, I really look up to Delano and Monique. They are really like big brother and sister to me, and they pour into me all the time, every day. And if the ones I don't make it, is usually I'm doing homework or something. But when I say I'm hanging with them and I'm trying to get all that I can, Dr. George C. Frazier, he is a giant. He is an icon. He's a legend. He's an OG. If you don't know who he is, you definitely need to connect with him as well while he's still here. And he has so much that he's poured into Delano, and Delano is pouring into me. I cannot say thank you enough just for you seeing something in me, just to reach out, and encourage me. It's very humbling, beyond measure. So I just want to openly give you your flowers and say thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I believe in you, man. I believe in you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right, everybody. I really hope you got something from this episode. The replay will be available later on. So if you don't know about it, hear about it right here and now. You need to follow Delano on Instagram today. You need to connect with him on Clubhouse in the House of Creativity today. If you are serious about not only just your brand, but yourself as a person, I highly recommend you do that right now, and do not hesitate. Hit that bell, hit that notification button, and follow both of us on Instagram. And with that being said, this is Camille Essick. I'm host of the Speaker Podcast. And until next time, everybody, be blessed. Thank you. Good night.